Ashwini, can we start the session? Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, welcome to Informatica Power Center training sessions. Yeah. So basically, what happened is in the last class we have talked about data warehouse because when you look into the training content here, for the first 3 days we are going to understand about the data warehousing concepts because yeah, because Informatica Power Center is a tool which is mostly used in the data warehousing environment or in the data warehousing projects. So that's the reason for the first 3 days we'll start understanding about the fundamentals of the data warehouse, right? And in the last class itself, we understood that what exactly is the data warehouse and how the ETL tool works in the data warehousing environment. And in today's class, we'll try to understand about the architecture of the data warehouse. So before going to that, since we have some new people are there here, I just go over what we had in the last session. Okay, yeah. So basically, for every organization or any company, data plays a major role, and every business will store its data in their OLTP databases. And let's assume our company is something called as a State Bank of India, and this State Bank of India contains 3 different OLTP systems. So one is present on SAP, another one is present on mainframe system, and we have another one on Oracle, right? So now you have all the core banking transactions of SBI are stored on SAP, and you have all the credit card transactions are stored on mainframe system, and you have all the insurance transactions are basically stored on the Oracle database. Okay. Right. Now, for the purpose of the business analysis, what we basically do is that we perform the ETL process. We basically perform the ETL process, like we extract the data from multiple source systems, right? We extract the data from multiple source systems. We transform the data into the homogeneous format, and we load the data into the homogeneous data store, which is called as a data warehouse. So this ETL process is something that is done by using the ETL tools. Like you have Informatica Power Center is the ETL tool, DataStage is another ETL tool. You have SSIS, Oracle Data Integrator. So these are all the different ETL tools that we have, where as the ETL developer, you will create this ETL process to read the data from the source systems, transform the data in the memory, and load the data into the tables of the data warehouse. Okay, so this data warehouse is nothing but a database. A data warehouse is a theory or a process. It's a theory or a process which is created on the database for the purpose of the business analysis. So you can create this data warehouse on any database, either it could be on Oracle or Teradata, either it could be on SQL Server. So you can create the data warehouse on any database that we have in the market, right? So once the data is present in the data warehouse, for the purpose of presentation, we have another layer called as a reporting layer or the BA layer, where within this BA layer you have something called as BA tools. BA tools like you have Cognos, yeah, Hyperion, we have SAP Business Objects, Tableau, right? And you have, yeah, so Tableau, and you have MicroStrategy. So these are all the different BA tools that we have, where these BA tools will select the data from the data warehouse and they present the data in the form of reports or dashboards. So these dashboards or reports, they will be accessed, these reports will be used by the business users of the company, different business users of the company, and they'll analyze how the business is basically running. So this is what we have seen in the last session. Yeah. And Venkat, can you explain me what is OLTP and homogeneous? So OLTP is nothing but it's a online transactional processing systems. So for every business you'll be, see, for example, you take Amazon is a OLTP system, OLTP application, right? And you can say Flipkart is a OLTP application. Railway systems is a OLTP application. Banking system is a OLTP application. Any financial application is a OLTP. Means for carrying out any business operation, you require the OLTP application for storing the operational data. For basically storing the operational data. Means, let's say you wanted to order some food. Then what you do, you just go into some McDonald's site and you will order the food. So that McDonald's is nothing but a OLTP application. So when you order the food, your information as well as the food information will be stored into the database of the McDonald's. So that whole application is called as a OLTP application, and your information, your food information is nothing but a operational data. Understood? Okay. So in the same way, for the State Bank of India, all the core banking transaction means when you credit the amount, when you debit the amount, when you process some checks, when you process some DDs. So all these transactions are basically stored in the SAP. These are all the operational transactions. In the same way, your credit card transactions are stored in the mainframes. Your insurance transactions are stored in the Oracle system. So these OLTP systems are nothing but they are the online transaction processing system which will store the operational transactions of the business. Okay, so homogeneous is nothing but, see, basically every system will have its own standards, different standards. So here let's assume if you take the gender column, so here the standard that is maintained is MF. Here it could be 10. Here it could be male, female. You have different standards in different systems. Okay, so what you do is that when you are loading the data into the data warehouse, you make sure that you follow a single process. Means you convert all these different standards into a single standard or a homogeneous standard. You will load the data for the gender column as male, female. So you're converting these different formats into a single format. This is called as a homogeneity. Okay, so these are the heterogeneous formats, and you transform the data and you convert that into a homogeneous format. Is it clear, Milton? Yeah. So this is what we have seen in the last class, all right? And yeah, now you can see here, we have different OLTP systems are there, and we are directly loading the data into the data warehouse. But when you go into your real time, the process is not like this. Means you have different phases in between your OLTP systems and your OLAP system. So OLAP is nothing but a data warehouse. So this data warehouse, since it allows us to analyze the business operation, it is called as a OLAP system. Okay, online analytical processing system. Online analytical processing system. So this is online transaction processing system, online transaction processing and online analytical processing system. So you can call the system as data warehouse, or you can call it as a OLAP also. Anything is same. Okay. Now, so you have different OLTP systems are basically there here. So all these OLTP systems, they will, they have all the operational transactions. All the operational transactions will be recorded here. Okay. Now you have the data warehouse. You have the data warehouse. So what happens is that we do not directly integrate the data from the OLTP system into the data warehouse. We do not do that. Why? Because we have to we have to make the data undergo different phases in between the OLTP and the OLAP. So what are the different phases? So the first phase that we have is the staging area. Staging area. So what is meant by the staging area is that the staging area basically it's like a parking region. It's a parking area where you have staging tables. Where you have the staging tables, right? What happens here? The staging tables will store the raw data. When I say raw data, what exactly does it mean? See here. You can see here within the OLTP system, you have the operational data or raw data is present. What we do is that we will just read the data. Okay, we'll just read the data or we'll extract the data from the OLTP tables and we load the data into the tables of the staging area. So by using Informatica Power Center, we read the data as well as we load the data into the staging tables. So all these staging tables will basically reside in the staging database or staging schema. Means a staging area is nothing but it's a separate database. It could be a separate database or it could be a separate schema. Okay, which contains the raw data, which contains basically the raw data. So how many number of OLTP tables are there? Let's assume if we have 500 number of totally OLTP tables are there, corresponding 500 staging tables will be basically present here. 500 staging tables will be there, which will basically read the data and maintain the staging data here. Right? And we always load the incremental data. Incremental data in the sense, when you load the data for the first time, means let's assume you have day one. Day one, you have like 10 million records are there. 10 million records are there, and you load all these 10 million records into the staging area. From the staging area, you load the data into the OLAP. Okay. On day two, you have another 2 million records are added. Totally, how many records are there here within the OLTP? 12 million records are there. 12 million records are there. Now, because already 10 million records are already processed here, how many records you will extract? Are you going to extract 12 million records or only 2 million records which are added? You will add the, you are going to read only 2 million records which are newly added here. 2 million records which are newly added, and these 2 million records you will be processing into the data warehouse. Okay, reading only the new data or reading only the changed data or reading only the incremental data is what you call it as an incremental extraction. Incremental extraction. So within the staging area, you will always have the incremental data that is stored. Okay, so when you're loading this incremental data, the old data which is there, this has to be truncated. Okay, this has to be truncated, and only the new data which is newly added to the source system has to be processed into the data warehouse. So it is called as a truncate load. The load which is there here is called as a truncate load. Means before you load the new data, you always truncate the existing information and you load the data into the staging area. Okay, so all these jobs which are created within the Informatica Power Center will be scheduled within the scheduling tools. Like you have UC4 is a scheduler, you have Tidal, you have AutoSys, yes, you have Control M. So these are all the different scheduling tools that we have in the market, where these scheduling tools will help us to schedule the jobs. They'll help us to schedule the jobs, and the jobs frequency, it might be a daily frequency, it could be a weekly frequency, it could be a monthly frequency. So the jobs might run on any frequency and the data will be loaded to the staging area. Okay, so once the data is present in the staging area, then there is one more optional area within the data warehouse architecture, which is called as a ODS area.
Okay,
So, but
Venkat, I have a question here. Can I ask?
Go ahead. Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, as you say that there's a staging area after OLTP system, right? And you're saying that raw data in it. So raw data, by using the ETL, we are extracting data as is, or we are changing its form or something, because our...
No. See, using Informatica Power Center, what do? We perform the ETL. ETL is nothing but extract,
transform,
and load. But see here, when you look at this, in the first phase, what are we doing?
Extract and load.
Yeah. Extract and load means transformation is something which is optional in nature. Means when you are creating the ETL, you can create with transformation or without transformation. So instead of, see, you can use the transformation, you can transform the data here. But if you use the transformation, it might be a burden on the source transaction. So that's the reason you're not using any transformation logic. You just extract the data and you load the data into the staging area.
Okay, so in short, like copy and paste same data from the OLTP to staging, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when we are loading the data from staging to data warehouse or ODS, as you are saying, it's incremental data and truncate load, right? So in the truncate load, let's say I am copy 20 million records from staging to data warehouse. So once I have copied them to ODS, so immediately I'm going to truncate it and adding 2 million new or what?
See, it is always the next time. See, if your particular job is a daily one, okay, today data is loaded. Today you have like 10 million records are there. This data is processed to the warehouse. So tomorrow, only when the job runs,
new load, okay.
Yeah, only when the job runs only, this data will be deleted.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Before the job runs.
Next
so
time.
It is a setting that we have within the Informatica Power Center, which is a truncate setting. So you can show it here. See here?
Yeah, truncate table.
So when you use this option, what happens is that it will truncate the existing data and it loads only the new data. So inserts only the new data.
Right.
Okay, so this is how it happens.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and why we are not transforming the data is that there might be cases where you have a table called as, let's assume, for example, you have a table called as EMP here. And in another system, you have another table called as EMP_1. Okay. These source systems are available for extraction only in a particular time period. Means the first system is available for extraction on 10 o'clock to 10:30. Understand? This system is available from 10:30 to 11. So can you join the data between these two? You cannot do that. Joining is nothing but transforming, right? So transforming is nothing but, you can cleansing is nothing but a transformation, joining is nothing but a transformation, right? So aggregation is nothing but a transformation. So these are all the part of transformations. See, when you have the data which is present in two different time periods, can you transform the data?
Right. No.
You cannot do that. So this is another, yeah. So another, so way like how we cannot do the transformation. Why we are not using the transformation? Okay, right. Now, once the data is available in the staging area, we are going to see again use Informatica Power Center. We are going to again use Informatica Power Center. We read the data from the staging tables. We read the data, my source is staging now. We read the data from the staging tables, which is nothing but extraction. We transform the data and load the data into the tables of the ODS. Okay, so within the ODS, you have the ODS is nothing but the full form is operational data store. Okay, where within this operational data store, it is also again, it could be a separate schema or it could be a separate database, right? And here all the ODS tables are basically present, where we are going to load the data into the ODS tables from the staging tables. Here we again use the Informatica Power Center. We create some ETLs with the transformation. We use different transformation strategies. We use the different transformation strategies, error handling methods, and we load the data into the ODS tables. So within the ODS tables, the data is of subject oriented. The data is subject oriented. The data is current data, and the data is volatile. And the data is volatile. So these are all the properties of the data that we have in the ODS area. The data that you have in the ODS area means subject oriented. Subject oriented in the sense, when you are loading the, when you are basically extracting the data from the sales data. When you are extracting the sales data, you have certain sales ODS tables will be there where the data will be loaded into that. You have some finance ODS tables will be there where you have the finance data. You have marketing data will be loaded into the marketing ODS tables. So the data is categorized according to the subject area in the ODS region where the tables are basically present. Right? And the data here is current and volatile. Current and volatile in the sense, so you have the data for the last 90 days will be there here. 90 days of data storage will be there here. Okay, so because you have the last 90 days of data is present here, it is something useful for the operational reporting. It is basically useful for the operational reporting. So when I say operational reporting, it is nothing but current reporting. Current reporting in the sense, let's assume you have a new product that is introduced. Let's assume I'm building a data warehouse for McDonald's, right? So McDonald's is nothing but, it's a fast food restaurant which basically serves the food items for the customers, right? Now I have a new item that has introduced something called as veg pizza. Let's assume burger pizza. Burger pizza is a new one which I have introduced. Now I want to analyze how this burger pizza sales are present in the last 30 days. In the last 30 days, how the sales are there, I want to analyze. Now, if I want to do that, I cannot do it on the data warehouse because I'll be having the yearly data here. At the same time, and I cannot do it, I cannot perform a report on the staging area because it contains the raw data here. Now, ODS area is the place where it contains the current valued data. current valued detailed data will be there here. Because you have the current value detailed data is there, you can basically perform the current trend analysis by using this data. So you can analyze like how the sales of this particular item is there in the last 30 days. So it totally depends upon the client's requirement, whether you require the ODS region or not. So that's the reason it's a optional. Whenever your business is asking for the current reporting, then only you will be having the ODS region. Otherwise, you have the data that has to be transferred from the staging to the data warehouse. Okay, so that's how we have the data here. Now, once the data is present in the ODS, again, you take the source as the ODS tables. You will load the data into the data warehouse by again using the Informatica Power Center. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so you will again use the Informatica Power Center to load the data into the data warehouse. Now, within the data warehouse, you have two types of tables are there. One is dimension table. Another one is fact table. You have the dimension tables as well as the fact tables that are present here. These are the two types of tables that are basically present in the data warehouse. These are the two types of tables, right? So whenever you're loading the data into the data warehouse, always you aggregate the data. So you aggregate the data at different levels. Means you aggregate the data at the daily level, you aggregate the data at weekly level, you aggregate the data at a monthly level. So in this way, you perform the aggregation. Means, let's say if you are loading the sales data, I'll aggregate the sales data at daily level. So I'll make it a sales daily ag. At the weekly level, I can aggregate. I'll store it in a different table. In the monthly level, I'll aggregate. I'll store it in a different table. So all these data, I'll store it in different tables, aggregating at different levels, and you can basically perform the reporting on top of this data warehouse also, which is useful for the reporting. Okay, so this is what you call it as a architecture of the data warehouse. This is the architecture of the data warehouse, and this is the enterprise data warehouse architecture. EDWH architecture. EDWH architecture. So within this EDWH architecture, you have the single database present. You have the single database present where all the data is present here, where all the subject-oriented data is present here. So you can perform the reporting on top of the data warehouse. At the same time, you can perform the reporting on top of the ODS region. Right?
Hi Venkat, I have a question. So you were telling about scheduling tools. So is it like a part of Informatica Power Center utility, or we have some other different tools where we have to perform separately and then load it to the staging area?
That's a good question. See, Informatica itself has an inbuilt scheduler.
Okay.
Right? At the same time, like you can say, like 70% of the projects are using the third-party schedulers because of Informatica disability in achieving some things, right? They are using third-party schedulers like this. See here, these are all the different third-party schedulers. All these are.
Okay.
Okay, right?
Okay, so what is the job which is done in scheduling?
What is the job that is done in scheduling? So it's like, see, the ETLs which you have created. See, in order to load the data from OLTP to the staging, you create some set of ETLs.
Okay.
Here you said all these ETLs can be scheduled. See, let's say I want to run these staging jobs at 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Once this is completed, I want to run this at 1 o'clock. I want to run this at 2 o'clock. Okay. All the sales jobs I want to run at 1 o'clock. All the credit reimbursement jobs I want to run at 2 o'clock. All the finance jobs I want to run at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
All the depletions job I want to run at 4 o'clock. So if you want to run a particular set of jobs at a particular set of timing, then you use the scheduling tools. At the same time, I want to run some OS scripts. I want to run some database scripts. I want to send the email notifications when the job is failed, at the same time when the job is run successfully.
Okay.
So if you want to do all sort of these things, not only this, if you want to take the backup of your Informatica, you want to take the backup of your databases, you want to take the backup of different databases that might contain different applications. Okay, so all these things you can do it by using the scheduling tools. Okay,
Which has
these
to
are all
be
the
done
examples.
before staging.
No. See, the scheduling will be done only after all the jobs are created.
Okay. Okay.
All the ETLs are done. Okay.
Okay.
At the same time, you have Informatica scheduler is also present. Maybe I can show it down here. See here, you have something called a scheduler, but it doesn't have that many, that many options. It does not have it. You can see you can start this job at a particular time.
Okay.
You can customize this also.
Okay.
You can run this job every day.
Okay.
Right? Or if you want to run it on a particular day of a month. Some jobs frequency only once in a month. Okay, some jobs will be on the first Monday or first Saturday. So in this way also, if you can run it for every 4 hours or 2 hours also. Okay, so you might have see there is something called as a CDC, change data capture. Okay.
Okay.
This change data capture, let's assume you're getting this CDC files every day.
Okay.
For every 3 hours, once you will get a CDC file. You have to process that CDC file to your warehouse. Then what will you do? You're going to run this job for every 3.5 hours, a particular job. So there are different ways how you can schedule the things based on the requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the job, after we schedule a job, if it is failed, we'll get the notification and we have to rectify it and run it again. Is that the procedure? Okay, I got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Venkat, as you say that staging area and ODS, right? Can you open the diagram? So ODS is optional, right? So it depends upon the company requirement. Then it says that staging is compulsory, right? It means.
Yeah, of course, staging is compulsory.
And why it is so, like?
That's what I said, right? See,
can we directly use, okay, for the joining and things, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's what. See, there might be cases where your source systems, which are transaction systems, they're available during different time periods. Okay, and if you use some transformation logic directly, it might affect the transactions on the system. So that is the reason we cannot avoid the staging areas. So we cannot avoid it. Right. So we definitely require it. See, once the data comes into our end, into the database, you can play it around any, any point of time.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the reason. Okay.
Can you save
so
the
this
diagram
is,
and share?
Yeah, so this is the architecture of the data warehouse. What is this architecture? It's the enterprise data warehouse architecture, where you have a single database where all the subject-oriented data is present here. Okay. Now, when you look into the other types of architectures here, we'll go into that. Yeah. Yeah. So before going there, so it's like you can see here, ETL process. ETL stands for extraction, transformation, and loading. Extraction is nothing but reading the data from the source system. There are two types of extractions again. One is a full extract Another one is incremental extract. Full extract is nothing but if you are reading the data completely from a particular table or from a particular system, it is called as a full extract. Incremental extract is nothing but whatever the changes that are captured, okay, only capturing the changed data is called as a incremental extract. So this is the feed system application where all the business transactions are stored, and we are reading the incremental data always, and we load the data into the staging area. Okay, and you have something called as a transformation here. So the transformation is something that will be done when loading the data from the staging area to the operational data store. We transform the data, we apply different transformation rules, and we cleanse the data and load it. And the operational data store, which is something optional in the area, from there we summarize the data and we load the data into the data warehouse by summarizing at different levels. Right? And the first type of architecture that we have is the virtual data warehouse architecture, where no data warehouse is there here. No data warehouse, no ETL process. No data warehouse and no ETL process. It is just that you're going to perform the reporting. API is nothing but reporting, application interface. So you're going to perform the reporting on top of the OLTP system itself, operational system itself. So this is called as a virtual data warehouse architecture. So the businesses which cannot afford the physical process of ETL and physical data warehouse, they usually create some crystal reports on top of the OLTP systems, and they will analyze the business. And the second one is like, you can see here, enterprise data warehouse architecture, which we have basically seen just now. Okay, so do not think that we don't have ODS or staging area. So it is just not represented here. And you can see here, you have a single database, which is the data warehouse is present. And these are all the different OLTP systems. We perform the ETL process here, and we load the data into the single data warehouse, and you perform the ETL process. Okay, right? And you can see here there is something called as metadata repositories there. So what is meant by this metadata repositories? That whenever you read the data from OLTP to the staging, from staging to the ODS, from ODS to the OLAP or data warehouse, you create certain number of ETLs. So all those ETLs which we create, the metadata of that ETL programs will be stored in the metadata repository. The metadata of the ETL programs, it will be there in the metadata repository. Understand? So this metadata repository is nothing but it stores the metadata of the ETL programs that are there. But it will reside in the same database where you have the data warehouse. It will reside in the same RDBMS most of the time, on which your data warehouse is basically present. Okay? And the next one is like, you have another architecture here called as multi-tied data warehouse architecture, where here there is something called as a new concept called as data mart is present. So data mart is nothing but it is a subset of the data warehouse. Data mart is nothing but it's a subset of the data warehouse, where it is created on a single subject area. Means when you create a sales data mart, it contains only the sales data. When you create a marketing data mart, it contains only the marketing data. When you create a finance data mart, it contains only the finance data. So data marts are nothing but they are the subsets of the data warehouse, where it contains the subject-oriented data in it. Okay, so you can perform the reporting on top of the enterprise data warehouse or on top of the data mart. So why do we have this data mart? Why do we have this data mart is that basically, for example, let's assume your data warehouse size is 5 terabytes, and you have like 200, let's assume some 100 business users are there. Your data warehouse is so large that you have 5 terabytes of data is present, and 100 business users are basically there here. Now, what happens here is that when all these business reports are hitting the huge database, when all these business reports, let's assume there are some 500 to 700 business reports are there. When all these business reports are hitting the same database again and again, such a huge database, at this time, the performance of the database will be degrade. The database performance will basically degrade. Now, in order to overcome this kind of situation, what I do is that I will segregate, or I will, I will separate the number of business users based on the data mart. Means I'll create a data mart here, and I'll keep all the sales data here. I'll create one more data mart. I'll keep all the finance data here. Now I'll create another data mart, and I'll keep all the finance, marketing related data here. Now, when you have kept the data here, when you have kept the data in the data mart, all the sales report which used to hit the sales data warehouse will now hit the sales, it will now hit the sales data mart. All the finance business reports will now hit the finance data mart. All the marketing reports will now hit the marketing data mart here. Marketing data mart. So you can perform even the reporting. What you're doing here, you're minimizing the number of business reports hitting the data warehouse, and you're hitting the data mart instead of that. So this is what you call it as a data mart. Okay, so data mart is nothing but it is a subset of the data warehouse. It is a subset of the data warehouse which contains the subject-oriented related data. Okay, so this kind of architecture is something that is given by Bill Immon, and this architecture is called as a top-down approach. It's called as a top-down approach. In the similar way, there is another architecture called as a bottom-up approach. This is basically the bottom-up approach. Okay, so here the department-specific data marts are created. Department-specific data marts are created, and each data mart will be created over a period of time. Means first the sales data mart is created. After that, if it is required, the finance data mart will be created. After that, it is required, marketing data mart will be created. At last, if it is required, we can integrate all these things to the enterprise data warehouse. Okay, so that is about how you have the multi-tiered data warehouse architecture. Right. So this approach is something introduced by Rolf Kimball. So this is Kimball's approach, and this is Immon's approach. So the previous one is Immon's approach. Right. And so you can see here the data in the data warehouse is summarized at different levels: highly summarized, lightly summarized, and currently summarized. And you have the monthly summarization, which is the highly one, weekly summarization, which is the lightly one, and daily summarization is the normal one. Okay, so this is how the data in the data warehouse is there, and you have most of the time, yes, most of the time it is the enterprise data warehouse architecture will be widely used. Okay, yeah, so that is about how the architecture of the data warehouse is present.
So when do we use the top-down or the bottom-up approach? Do we have some criteria, like when we use this method, we have to, do you have some explanation?
Yeah, so exploration is nothing but, the criteria is nothing but it totally depends upon the amount of data that you have.
Okay, okay.
Totally depends upon the amount of the data and the number of business reports that runs. So based on this, the architecture will change. So that is the only thing.
Okay, if so the data is like huge?
Yeah, so if you take the clients like Citibank or Walmart, so huge number of transactions will be done, right?
Okay.
So worldwide they have the stores. So when you have the huge clients like this, basically obviously the data will also be very huge.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Some middle clients like Heineken or some HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank. Okay. So these kind of Standard Chartered. So these are like middle tier companies where they go for enterprise data warehouse architecture.
Okay.
So it totally depends upon the amount of data that it contains. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So any questions on motion, Milton?
No, sir, I don't have any question.
Yeah, Milton, any questions, Prithvi? Want to speak, but you can't hear.
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, you can even ping me, Milton. Maybe I think your headphones is not clear. Yeah, your mic is not good. I think. Yeah. Nope, I do not. I don't. Yeah. So, do you have any questions, Milton? Okay. Yeah. So, Aishwarya, you said you're going to speak something. Yeah. You can go ahead.
I come across all these topics.
Of course, it will be done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I can ask you any doubt if I in the further sessions.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Venkat.
So I'll be giving my phone number to you.
Okay.
Even in the next couple of after the couple of sessions,
Okay.
you can contact. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah. So thanks. Thanks for joining, and we'll meet in the next class.
Yeah. Hey, Venkat. Venkat. Would you mind to share that document as you said you're going to send it to Ashwini? So.
Yeah, I'm sending it to Ashwini. She will share that to you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So going forward, I'll be sending you. Once I receive your email address, I can send it directly.
Okay.
But,
right.
For the next couple of sessions, she's going to send you.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
All right. Okay then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.